In one of the most extraordinary battles described in Scripture, a remarkable story stands out. A single angel, sent directly by God, descends to earth with a divine mission to face a vast human army of 185,000 soldiers. This is not a symbolic tale or an allegory, but one of the most literal, powerful, and striking accounts in the Bible. And today, you're going to dive into every detail of this divine intervention that changed the course of a nation. So go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, and watch the video until the end. It all begins with King Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, who took the throne of Judah at the age of 25. His reign lasted about 29 years and stood out among the kings of Israel for his devotion and spiritual courage. Amid a climate of moral decay and widespread idolatry, he restored the worship of the true God, destroyed idols on the high places, and reinstituted the Passover with great reverence. He gathered the priests and Levites, ordered the purification of the temple, and restored the sacrifices according to the law of Moses. Hezekiah didn't just reform religious practices, he also awakened a renewed sense of spiritual identity in the people. The restoration of the covenant with God brought about a rebirth of collective trust. The people of Judah began to understand that their strength would not come from political alliances or military power, but from the presence of the living God among them, paving the way for the challenges to come. During these reforms, Hezekiah made a bold decision. He destroyed the bronze serpent that Moses had made in the wilderness. Though it was originally crafted as an instrument of healing, over time it had become an object of worship. The people burned incense before it and called it Nehushtan. Recognizing the danger of tradition turning into idolatry, Hezekiah did not hesitate. According to 2 Kings 18:4, King Hezekiah tore down pagan worship sites, broke Baal's sacred pillars, cut down Asherah poles, and destroyed the bronze serpent that Moses had made. This action affirmed his commitment to pure worship directed solely to the God of Israel. More than symbolic, it marked a definitive break with the superstitious and idolatrous past that had spiritually weakened the people. Hezekiah understood that no victory would come without a heart fully devoted to God, and this firm stance would be crucial in the critical moments soon to unfold as the political and military threats around Judah intensified. While Judah grew stronger spiritually, the threat around it escalated. The Assyrian Empire, led by King Sennacherib, became the most feared military force of the ancient world. Known for their brutality and efficiency, the Assyrians invaded kingdoms, toppled walls, and spread terror wherever they went. Sennacherib conquered several fortified cities of Judah and then turned his sights on Jerusalem. Fearing for his people's safety, Hezekiah tried diplomacy, sending messengers, offering tribute, and requesting peace to avoid invasion. Yet behind the diplomacy, Hezekiah knew true protection did not come from silver, gold, or political deals. It came from Judah's covenant with the God of Israel. Tension mounted, and the siege of the city seemed inevitable. It was as if God was allowing the enemy to advance just enough to once again demonstrate his power before the nations and remind Judah who their true protector was. Even after receiving silver and gold, Sennacherib remained unyielding. He marched toward Jerusalem and sent a letter filled with insults. It not only threatened the city, but mocked the God of Israel, claiming no God of any nation had saved their people, and that Jerusalem would be no different. Upon receiving the letter, Hezekiah did not respond with military strategy or panic. He entered the temple, laid the letter before the altar, tore his clothes, and prayed with deep anguish. He knew this was a situation only the Lord could resolve. Hezekiah's response was a true act of faith and surrender. He did not rely on horses, chariots, or armies, but humbled himself before God, acknowledging total dependence on heaven. His heart was fully turned to the Lord, and that moved God's heart. As the enemy prepared for battle, Hezekiah prepared through prayer. Hezekiah sought the prophet Isaiah, who promptly brought a divine message. Do not be afraid of the words with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will put a spirit in him, and he shall hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. This prophecy not only promised deliverance, but guaranteed that Sennacherib would not enter Jerusalem, shoot an arrow, or build a siege ramp. Isaiah also gave a sign. The shadow on the sundial would go back 10 degrees, a visible confirmation that the word was from God. And so it happened. This prophetic word sparked real hope in the midst of fear. Isaiah not only revealed what God would do, but pointed to the very character of God, faithful, protective, and zealous for his people. Jerusalem would not be saved by chance, but because of God's eternal covenant with David, and because a king chose to kneel before the Almighty. That night, while men slept and Jerusalem's walls stood unbreached, something extraordinary occurred. According to 2 Kings 19:35, "And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead bodies. In one night, without a single human sword, the enemy army was annihilated. One angel, under the command of the Almighty, executed divine judgment with precision." This intervention was not only a response to Hezekiah's prayer, but a clear revelation of God's sovereign rule over the kingdoms of the earth. The most feared army of the time fell without a fight, proving that when God acts, no power can resist. The silence of that night turned to awe at dawn, and Jerusalem was spared, not by human strength, but by the arm of the Lord. At dawn, the people saw with their own eyes the result of prayer and faith. Bodies of soldiers lay across the enemy camp. Not a single arrow had been shot from Jerusalem, nor had any wall been breached. The world's most feared army had been defeated by the power of God. The people were filled with reverence and awe. Strengthened in his faith, Hezekiah witnessed firsthand that the Lord honors those who trust in him. That moment left a deep mark on the heart of the nation. News spread among survivors and to surrounding cities, and many began to fear the God of Israel. This supernatural victory not only saved Jerusalem, but restored reverence for God's name, reaffirming that he defends those who call upon him in spirit and in truth. Humbled, Sennacherib returned to Assyria. Though he survived, his prestige and authority were shattered. According to historical Assyrian records, he was assassinated years later by his own sons, a result of betrayal and a struggle for power. The man who dared to defy the God of Israel met a tragic and shameful end. Isaiah's prophecy was fulfilled with precision. The king of Assyria fell by the sword. In his own land, the same man who mocked God, thought himself invincible, and ridiculed faith, was struck down. Not on the battlefield, but inside his own house. God's justice never fails. It may seem slow in human eyes, but it always comes at the right time. And thus, the chapter of the Assyrian threat closed with a powerful reminder that no arrogance can stand before the King of Kings. Hezekiah's reign continued with new works and spiritual integrity. He strengthened the city's walls, built the Siloam tunnel, and kept the people faithful to God. Yet he faced a serious illness and came near death. Once again, he prayed sincerely and with faith, and God answered. According to Isaiah 38, the Lord extended his life by 15 years. This miracle, also recorded in Scripture, is yet another testimony of the covenant between Hezekiah and the God of Israel. Even after his healing, Hezekiah did not grow complacent. He continued leading with justice and keeping Judah away from idolatry. His final years were marked by stability and faith. And though he made mistakes like any man, his life is remembered with honor. He was a king who knew how to bow in prayer, trust in the promises, and witness the glory of God in his generation. Hezekiah died after 29 years on the throne. His son Manasseh took over, but followed a different path, introducing idolatry and pagan practices in Judah. Even so, Hezekiah's story remains one of the most powerful demonstrations of faith, courage, and spiritual leadership in the entire Old Testament. He proved that when people turn to God, no enemy, no matter how strong, can stand against his mighty hand. The era of Hezekiah ended as a living reminder that faithfulness to God always bears lasting fruit. Even with the failures of the next generation, Hezekiah's legacy stood as a guiding light for those who came after him. His name is eternally remembered as an example of a king who, in the face of the impossible, chose to trust and was delivered by heaven itself. If this message touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that God still sends angels, still answers prayers, and still fights for those who trust in His name. God bless you.